The life and legacy of one of the most influential families in America is uncovered in a new film documentary called RFK Legacy. It's been directed and created by Sean Stone, the son of legendary Hollywood icon Oliver Stone, and his father, Oliver, has collaborated on the movie. It features exclusive interviews with RFK Jr. and those who are close to him and his father. It tells a story of what drove these two men, I should say, into public service. Ironically, unintentionally, coincidentally, it premiered one day after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's, it's hard for me to say. I was introduced to Charlie 11, 12 years ago. It also premiered one year after the two assassination attempts on President Donald Trump. I say that it's coincidental because the film focuses on the three assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. Let's meet the person behind the film, Sean Stone. Sean, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Sean, what made you come up with the idea? What gave you the passion to create this documentary?
Yeah, I think the passion came from the feeling that the media was lying about RFK Jr. So, you know, I know Bobby Jr. for a few years, and I've always admired his courage to challenge the mainstream narratives. Um, he started off as a young man, becoming a major environmental lawyer, challenging the big corporations that were, dumping in the Hudson River and, the big agro companies, putting pig waste into, pig excrement and stuff into, into the waters. And, he's had so many major cases that he became basically this huge environmental figure. And, I appreciated the fact that he didn't just stop with, you know, speaking at the DNC and becoming a puppet of one political party. He, when it came to the vaccine safety issue, he listened to the mothers that were saying, "Listen, my child has been injured by vaccines." He listened, he looked at the data, and he helped them and tried to represent them in different ways. And then, during COVID, the same, he challenged the lockdowns. He challenged obviously he wrote a great book about Fauci exposing him. So I just thought he was such a great figure in the sense of, the classic American, I don't know, like an Upton Sinclair type of figure, right? Who's
Yeah.
gonna, who's gonna stand up for the little guy against it doesn't matter whether it's big pharma, uh, big oil, you name it. He's just going to stand up and fight for you. So I appreciated that about him, and I felt that the media was lying when, they were trying to turn him into this kind of crank who doesn't really represent the Kennedy family and all this. And I said, look, JFK and RFK, as far as I'm concerned, were killed by conspiracies. So they must have been doing something that was that was pissing people off and challenging the establishment in different ways. So I wanted to show that legacy that RFK Jr. was carrying on.
So the media bias, the media agenda is what popped this idea into your passion. Do you feel that had he not joined Trump, had and stayed as a quote unquote DNC member, Democrat on a political side, do you think the media would be making him would be branding him as such a kook as the way they're trying to do today?
Oh, sure, because they were doing it when he was running for Democrat. I mean, remember when he initially got into the campaign in 23, threw his hat in the ring, let's say, and wanted to become to run for president. Um, the Biden administration and that whole Democrat, Biden run Democrat Party at the time, or whoever ran Biden, I don't know.
Right.
They wouldn't have a primary. So it wasn't just, RFK Jr. It was also like Marianne Williamson and others, who knows, Bernie. I mean, probably not Bernie, but people that would have, let's say said, let's have a Democrat primary before going with Biden, which obviously they didn't do because they yanked him at the last minute, but they had no primary. So they didn't allow people like RFK Jr. to participate in that debate. Very important that they basically tried to silence him, even before he became an independent first, remember, and he
Yeah.
still is an independent. I don't know if he's just a Republican at all. I just know that he became an independent
Yeah.
because the Democrat Party was silencing him, the media was attacking him and trying to vilify him, and he basically said, "Well, if I can't run in the Democrat ticket in the primaries, let me run as an independent." And that's when he ran as an independent, and then he basically said, "Well, I can't win this election, I know it, but at least let me try to, you know, throw my weight to one of these candidates." And I think he offered it to both candidates, and Kamala just didn't even want to meet with him. And
Wow.
Trump obviously did. And Trump said, "Listen, I agree with you. I agree with a lot of what you're saying and a lot of your concerns when it comes to health and the health of our country." And he basically, if you want to join me, we'll make you the secretary of health and human services, and you'll basically get the run of the show when it comes to that department, which really oversees what so many departments under it.
What surprised you the most when you did your research for this documentary? You spoke to people that were close to family members within the RFK family, senior and junior.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it wasn't that we went through. We're not doing we're not doing a traditional like here's a biography of RFK Jr. or RFK Sr. There are other documentaries that do that. There are plenty of documentaries that do the biographies, let's say, right? That get into all the details of someone's life. I mean, there's even documentaries on RFK Jr. called like I don't know, the real RFK Jr. and stuff like that, based on I think uh, the Dick Russell book. We wanted to get into certain points about legacy,
Mm.
about what people stand for, and you have to watch the documentary to really feel it because it's parallel. It's two parallel lives. It's a father and son who both experienced tremendous tragedy and loss.
Mm.
RFK Sr., the loss of his brother, RFK Jr., the loss of his father. And it's the parallel of how they respond to tragedy and how they find the resilience and the courage to keep going and end up, really finding their stride.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I mean, you got to watch the film.
I will be. And for our viewers, they can watch it at the Angel Studios website. Is that correct?
So Angel Studios is a platform. It's a streaming platform, just like Netflix, and it's on. They have it on smart TVs. They have it online. Whatever people stream on nowadays.
I mean, what you just said, Sean, I don't know how many times I said wow, three or four or five. That's what it brought out in me. What you and as I listened to you say what you said, yeah, it makes sense. The parallels there of each person having someone close to them assassinated, shot, murdered, and in how they've reacted in their own life.
Sure.
Um, what uh, what kind of response have you heard back? Anything that's beside? I'm sure there's been a lot. I've heard good responses, by the way. I've heard a lot of good response. I'm looking forward to watching the RFK Legacy on the Angel Studios platform. Uh, any negative responses, like from someone from the media, for example?
No, now what they do is they ignore you.
Yeah.
Well, that's the main weapon that they try to do with people like RFK Jr. I mean, before he threw his hat in the ring, and then when he joined Trump, I mean, that's when they really came after him. As a whatever. There's a million pejoratives that they've used. Before it, they censored him, and they tried to take him off whatever Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, right? I don't know if they took him off. They definitely censored some of his stuff. They banned him from Twitter, I believe,
Okay.
before Elon got it. And so, yeah, I mean, censorship is the name of the game now when you're in the mainstream, legacy media. They try to just you know, ignore the conversation. They want to pretend like you can't have the conversation, right? And they dismiss it like, oh, this person's crazy, so I'm not going to even engage with them. I think that's kind of the legacy media response so far is let's just pretend it doesn't exist.
By the way, I got to point this out. A new Gallup poll came out 2 weeks ago, I believe it was October 5th, on the trust in America legacy media. And once again, it has hit an all-time historical low.
It feels like it's just it's been plummeting for 20 years.
You, what
Should,
connection,
by the way.
what parallel, if any, do you see between the coincidence that your film was released the day after Charlie Kirk assassination and Trump had been assassinated, attempted a year earlier twice? Or put differently, what parallel do you see between Charlie Kirk's assassination and the Trump attempts?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is something that we try to pitch some of the legacy media outlets to discuss
Yeah,
because they say, oh, we're not going to talk about your documentary because we're talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination. They go, well, guys, I mean, we've lived through political assassinations in this country and big, massive ones in the 60s. Obviously, that was the era of four major American assassinations, right? Um, JFK, Malcolm X, uh, MLK, and Robert Kennedy. So this is not new for us as a country, and for the boomer generation in particular. Arguably they were, deeply traumatized by those, especially the Kennedy brothers, deeply traumatized by them, and MLK obviously. Malcolm X was probably more controversial at the time, although I think he had shifted so much in his positions from being a sort of black nationalist type to being willing to cooperate with MLK that he at that point was a big threat. Imagine if they had lied, of how powerful they would have been. So again, you see the reason the reason for assassination. I think when it comes to these issues, is you're dealing with conspiracies that oftentimes, yes, you're talking like CIA level of intelligence, both intelligence and an ability to conduct assassinations, which the CIA has. Nowadays, it's probably more outsourced. I think a lot of the intelligence world has been outsourced since um, Bush Sr. took over. Remember, Bush Sr. was CIA director back in what, 75, 6, yeah, under Ford, Gerald Ford, right?
right.
And they kind of started to um, privatize a lot of the intelligence. So it's kind of like the military industrial complex. It's not like the Pentagon. The Pentagon is writing checks, and obviously the gov. We're paying for a lot of things that what is it, Northrop Grumman and all these these contractors are doing. During the Iraq War, it was like Blackwater was like a big name for like the mercenaries, but there's a lot of groups like that that are part of this complex of assassinations, black ops, right? Military development, and yeah, I mean they're talking about huge contracts with these entities, and then I think also when it comes to the side of intelligence gathering, we know like even again it's gets so compartmentalized, it gets so complex that it's very difficult, in this day and age to say, well, the CIA did it. It's like it's it's a massive operation. Back then, it was probably easier in the 60s to say, yeah, CIA agent types, were involved with JFK and RFK's assassination. In the case of RFK, we go into the conspiracy. Who killed him? Certainly, it wasn't Sirhan, um, because the bullets came right behind him, and Sirhan was about 6 feet in front of him. So you have to watch the documentary to get into, one of the people that we believe was involved, who was a security guard at the time, um, who was the guy basically in the best position to either shoot or at least hold RFK Sr. in position while the shooter came and took the shots right behind the ear was the kill shot, and that was about an inch to 3 inches behind the ear. So, yeah, you have to see the documentary to get into the conspiracy of that.
And all three assassinations were against individuals who were not with the establishment. Is that a fair statement?
Um, in terms of the people that are killed are generally questioning the establishment or challenging the establishment.
The people who were
Uh,
killed.
yeah, I mean, even to the Charlie Kirk thing, it's like, he had a voice that was, I think he was an independent thinker. And it was clear, even from the way that he was, questioning our policy vis-a-vis Israel, for example. I mean, he was an independent thinker who would challenge I think, anything and be willing to think critically on it. And someone like that, thinking for himself, who has a potential political trajectory, as RFK Senior was about to potentially be president, probably would have won the presidency. You can't let that person in. They have to be controlled, as far as I'm concerned, compromised, controlled to a certain extent. Maybe not fully controlled, but at least you have enough dirt on them that you can basically manage them. And if they get out of control or they don't do what you want, you have to, be able to either get rid of them in some capacity, and if worst case scenario, you kill them.
I understand RFK Jr. is very, very appreciative of what you've done with this documentary. I'm hearing it secondhand. What are you hearing firsthand?
No, I mean, I think he was moved when he saw it for the first time. Um, and of course, I mean, I think he's appreciative because when you see the film, you see this, it's an homage to two, I would say, to two men who, flawed as they are, and we don't really get, deeply into the flaws of each one. Obviously, we're human, but it's an homage to their leadership and courage in the face of adversity, right?
Sean, you had mentioned that the media, uh, has that bias. I would imagine that you don't expect anyone from Hollywood ever, in the movie production company, ever to take a phone call from you after this.
No, I mean, look, it's not the legacy media, I hope, is shifting, maybe with people like um, you know, Ellison taking over CBS and whatnot. I mean, maybe there's on certain issues you can talk. I mean, look, there's always this issue about like what you can and can't talk about.
Yeah.
Uh, who knew that, vaccines would become so untouchable as a topic, right? I mean, I think I felt like in the late 90s, early, around 2000, there was a lot more kind of concern around big pharma and the healthcare industry, right? The fact that that hospitals are, if I'm correct, they're definitely the top three murderers of people basically annually. Is
Mhm.
from it's hospitals. It's basically like it's either malpractice or human error or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, people die en masse in our hospital system, right?
I didn't realize.
So I feel like there was a lot more talk around these topics, when I was a kid. And you name it, like we knew that back in like 2000, I remember seeing studies like, oh yeah, high fructose corn syrup is carcinogenic. And there's, a massive lobby pushing for, this use of high fructose corn syrup, but it's really not healthy. And here we are 25 years later, and it's still in all the products. And finally, Trump is talking about it, and Bobby are talking about like, hey, let's get rid of the high fructose corn syrup and go back to like putting sugar in Coke, for example, just simple thing. Crazy. I mean, to me, it's just wild that I feel that we did have some more criticism and a little bit more. And that's what you'll see in the documentary. When Bobby first comes out, he's on Jon Stewart talking about the connection between vaccines and neurocognitive issues, including autism, right? But not only autism. And he's on Jon Stewart talking about it in 2005, I believe.
Wow.
So you go, yeah, it was only a matter of time before, whatever,
Good
the
point.
pharma money bought up those channels and said, no, we're gonna present everything by Pfizer as you watch these shows now, presented by Pfizer. So don't go there.
Sean Stone, this is a great project. I really, really appreciate you joining us today. The documentary You and I have just gotten introduced very recently. I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but I am going to very soon. It's on the Angel Studios platform for our viewers, and we're putting the lower third there. Any final comments, Sean, that you'd like to add?
Um, no, I mean, I really just urge people to share it and share it with their friends, talk about it. That's the best way that we can spread the message and wake people up to even if a lot of people have seen the documentary that said, I knew things obviously about certain things about RFK Senior and Junior, and at the same time they'll still watch the documentary and go, wow, I learned things I didn't know, even about the Kennedy administration. It's because we also talk about JFK's administration. So I think it's really worthwhile. And I know people that one of the best remarks was a guy saying, I don't really like documentaries, but this is like it's like a special movie. You don't feel like you're watching a documentary.
Nice. I've heard great feedback or reviews, whatever phrase you want to use. I've heard not good, great stuff about it. Sean Stone,
Fantastic.
thank you for joining us.
Fascinating. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Back with more after this.